We'll start with the facility safety and courtesy items, which is essentially for those that are here here at DCA. The exits are there to your left, and right behind us up here, and down that hallway. Restrooms are out the double doors and to the right. We will begin with roll call. We're a little slim here today, but looks like we have some folks on the phone as well. So I'll start. My name is Nicholas Oliver. I'm the Bureau Chief of the Bureau.
I'm Rita Wong, the Deputy Bureau Chief.
Bird Rides.
Steve Whitecan, California Moving and Storage.
And anyone on the phone would like to introduce yourself?
Don Lucas.
Hello, Don.
Good morning, Pascal Benjamini.
Thanks for joining, Pascal.
Antoinette Stein.
Hello, Antoinette. Okay. Thank you for the roll call. We'll move on to item 2, our operations update, and our budget liaison, Carl from Department of Consumer Affairs, will give us that update.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Carl Bierman with the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office. I'm here to give you a brief budget update. Since the last time I was here, the proposed owner's budget for 2021 was released on January 10th. With that release comes some adjustments to your budget to account for things like like renewal fees and licensing fees and whatnot. The second section is your expenditures and direct assessments to your fund. Now, one thing to note is that in current year and out years, we project that you spend your full appropriation, so that's your full amount of money that you're allotted each year, which never happens for either of your 3 funds, which is good. And then there's some direct assessments like supplemental pension payments and statewide pro rata, which covers expenses like SEO issuing checks for you and the state treasurer's office and things like that doing work for you. And then the final section is your overall fund balance. So this is pretty much a formula that just takes your money coming in, subtracts your money going out, and lets you know how much you have left in the fund at the end of the fiscal year. So if you look at those bottom numbers, you'll see the electronic appliance repair fund is growing, so you have a healthy reserve each year. If we move on to the next fund, the home furnishings and thermal insulation fund, I know I got a question last time that it looks like the fund may be declining, just looking at the numbers, but that's due to us projecting that you spend your full appropriation each year. If you look at the prior year column, you revert several $100,000 in that fund every year. So the budget office sees no issue with that indicator. And your third fund, the new one, household movers fund. This fund is healthy as well. So no indicators of any financial turmoil for any of your 3 funds. Any questions on that so far?
Yes, I have a question. So on the revenue side, penalty assessments, is that fines? Is that basically citations?
Yes.
Okay. And then under transfers and other adjustments, the 21,000 revenue transfer for household movers fund to motor carrier safety improvement fund. Can anyone explain exactly what that is?
That's a credit. So they transferred 21,000 into the fund. I have to look up what that specific code section.
They do that each, so that is a amount that they put in each year?
Yes. Was out shortly, which I know would be a big help so that you can see what you're spending easily. Other than that, if there's no additional questions, that will conclude the budget update.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Oliver, this is Antoinette. I think I heard someone join.
Oh, did someone join on the phone that didn't introduce themselves yet?
Guess not.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item 2B, and that's personnel update. And that will be given by Reed Wong.
Hello, everybody. We have quite a few things to update you on personnel within the Bureau. You can see we have a very full audience today. A lot of our new staff were attending their first advisory council and hopefully won't get too embarrassed when I call them out in the audience to say hello. First thing to report is Jacqueline Castro has been promoted from within house to our new licensing manager. So congratulations to Jacqueline. We have a new hire and brand new position, the executive secretary position, who reports directly to Nicholas, and that's Melissa Del Duca. Hi. And then after that, we have a new information officer, also reporting directly to Nicholas, and that is Scott Gilbert. Within the licensing unit supporting household movers licensing as well as service contracts, we've got a new analyst, Erin Bertoni. There she is. And then some changes within the lab. We recently made a hire for our long vacant lab supervisor, and that position, as we mentioned last time, has been reclassed into the environmental scientist series, so that's a senior environmental scientist supervising, and we were able to bring back Ms. Rosemarie Pagoda, who was previously a chemist within the Bureau and has come back to the Bureau to lead our lab. So congratulations to Rosemarie. Additional promotion within the lab, we were able to promote an internal candidate, Jacob Anker, from a textile technician to one of our new environmental scientist positions. We still have one more vacant environmental scientist position that we're looking to fill, and I believe we're almost to the point to be able to make a hire for that last position. And then the next coming recruitments for the lab will be replacing the 2 textile technicians, one that just left the Bureau, and then the promotion of Jacob. So we'll have 2 vacancies there. Additional recruiting coming up in our compliance unit. We're going to be making a hire of 1 SSA and 1 office technician, SSA staff services analyst. And then in the field, we're still in the process of hiring 4 special investigators that will be located remotely throughout the state of California for additional enforcement. Any questions?
Okay, thank you for that update. And just to follow up on that question, Steve, about the 21,000, that is the CHP fund, or fees that we pay CHP annually.
Okay.
Okay. On to our item 3, statistical overview. We'll have several different staff members presenting, but first for the laboratory, we will have our new lab manager, Rosemary Bakota.
New samples have been received, 30 have been completed with 100% pass rate as to disclosure of filling materials and compliance with any other regulations. Another item, labeling. This is criteria assessed by the lab. Products are required to be labeled in accordance to the various regulations. There is currently a 13% pass rate for labeling, meaning all labels are absolutely perfect. We have a 42% of minor violations, followed by a 42% of more moderate type violations, and a 3% failure rate of labels. This concludes this category of test type and results. Are there any questions?
Yeah, this is John Lucas. I have a question on the labeling. Is the failures mainly in the TB 117-2013 labeling, or is it spread across everything?
I believe that's probably a combination. The failure can be TB 117, but also I believe wrapped into that is the failure for DTSC testing.
Okay, I know that the labeling with TB 117-2013 has been a problem in the past, and I'm wondering if in the future you can separate that out, because it'd be nice to see that trend moving downward for the new flammability on the furniture.
We will look into that for the future, separating it out. So to repeat, you wanted separated out from testing and label failures themselves, is that correct?
Well, pretty much separating out the TB 117-2013 test failures in the labeling. That in the past has been a problem.
Okay.
Meaning, you know, that they haven't done a very good job of labeling on the TB 117-2013.
Okay, and as I'm also recalling, a label failure could also occur, and I don't have that information here, for, once again, incorrect registry number, anything that would be what is an identification issue. So, so it could be TB 117, misidentification of manufacturer, and wrapped into this one, I know, is also DTSC failure testing. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Rose, I'd just like to say, I think labeling has been a problem for a very, very long time, the errors, and I think the Bureau's effort in getting the law label information into one particular place on the, you know, on the, with the FAQs, you can go online and you can see it. You don't have to search all over for all the different exceptions and everything. I think that will really help the failure rate.
As I understand, the FAQs have been posted as of January of this year, and I believe the Bureau has received a lot of positive feedback from that. So that's very good to hear. Thank you, Bert.
This is Antoinette Stein. You spoke of the insulation, expecting to have some additional, and I wanted to see if you could be more specific on that, what you're expecting.
I would have to get together with our program manager and get back to you on that information, but specifically...
Great, no problem.
Okay. The second category, or the second information category observed on the lab statistics. This section presents other information requested. This section classifies completed sample by test type and by manufacturer locations. As observed here, the upholstery furniture that has been received over the course and completed within the past 7 months, of those, 31% of those articles are manufactured in California. 6% come from other states within the U.S., and 63% comes from overseas manufacturers. In the case of the mattresses, which were completed this year, all 10 that were completed, that were completed this year, were manufactured in California. Any questions?
Yeah,
Well, great, this is Don Lucas again. I think, I'm trying to remember who requested this breakdown, and I can't remember, but I thought the reason was to try to find out if the overseas furniture, for instance, was failing at a much higher rate than the California-made furniture. So I'm wondering if in the future we could see that kind of information in addition to just the breakdown that you presented today.
Okay, I'll take that information back with us.
Yes, we could do that. But I think originally this, the request was based on, well, I guess questions on where samples were being picked up from. And I think the request maybe was from Bert and Pascal on wanting to see a broader, I guess, from from other locations except from California, right?
Yes. For example, 20% from California, not 20%, 24 and 40. Out of those, where were those picked up? Where are you getting the samples? I know for California, you're getting mostly from the manufacturers. How about the other states? How do you get theirs? Because you don't go to their factories.
So we're
And also overseas.
So we've focused, I would say, over the last year, maybe a little longer, on obtaining samples from distribution centers, wholesalers, other locations besides you know, locations where it's I guess, you have more access to a lot of those products. So yeah, large distribution centers is the primary, has been the primary focus for sample pickup.
This is Pascal. So my understanding is that, for example, when I look at this and I see manufacturing locations, USA, California, this is an actual company that is manufacturing the product here. Whereas for overseas, it's manufactured overseas, but there's a distribution center in California where you can pick up the actual product.
Correct.
Is that cool?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, this is great. This is great. I know I was one of the people asking for this information, so thank you to the Bureau for presenting it. If it's possible, to determine the failure rates and by corollary the pass rates for a further breakdown from USA, California, USA, other states, and overseas. That would be helpful to know as well. But this is great information. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing, if there are no more questions, with Section 3. Section 3, this third section, presents the results for review of flame retardant chemical statement that is required to be attached to products completed during the last 7 months. Of the 64 samples that have been completed during this period of time, it has been noted that 58 of those samples have the contains no flame retardant chemical box checked. 4 of those samples have checked contain flame retardant chemicals, and 2 of those samples have checked neither box. Of those samples that have been completed, 8 articles were selected to have components of those articles sent to DTSC. While the components are being sent to DTSC, request letters for verification of their declaration contains no flame retardant chemicals are sent to the manufacturers for statements for all the components contained within that article. Based on those samples that were completed, 90% of those articles that have been completed had the no flame retardant chemical box checked, 7% contain chemicals, and 3% unknown. Any questions? Okay. The fourth section actually reflects the testing that is sent to DTSC. Of these, as mentioned earlier, 8 articles had materials contained within sent to DTSC for testing. Of those 8 articles, 3 have passed DTSC testing, and we are awaiting the results of 5 other components for those articles. From a documentation standpoint for those same articles, 3 have passed the documentation criteria, 2 have failed, and we're waiting for the results of the remaining 3. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Next, we'll have Avra presenting the licensing statistics.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Avra Wallace-Scholl.
Hit the button. Make sure the light's green. There you go.
Good morning. My name is Avra Wallace-Scholl, and I will be presenting all the licensing statistics for the fiscal year of 2019 to 2020. To start with is the electronic and appliance repair registrations. The first is appliance service dealers. We have a total of 2,593 registrations. Electronic service dealers are 4,407. Combination electronic and appliance service dealers are 504. Service contract administrators are 58. And service contract sellers are 11,530. We have a total electronic and appliance registrations of 20,788. Moving on to home furnishings and thermal installation licenses, we have furniture retailers, we have 2,050 licenses. Bedding retailers, 2,203. Furniture and bedding retailers, we have 11,075. Custom upholsterers are 447. Supply dealers are 90. Importers, which includes overseas manufacturers, are 5,577. Manufacturers are 1,424. Sanitizers are 25, wholesalers are 180, and thermal installation manufacturers are 116. So we have a total of household furnishings and thermal installation licenses are 23,187. Moving down to the household movers permits. The permits issued for the 2019-2020 year is 94, with a total active permits of 1,004. Are there any questions about those?
This is Antoinette. I have a question about this first section that you, on the service dealers, electronic service dealers, online, you have to have storefront, right? That's one of the...
For a service dealer registration? No, you don't have to have a storefront.
Curious if, for small electronics, it seems small, so that's why I asked about the number, that's the growth. There seems to be new fix-it operations throughout the state that I'm aware of, but the number's not really growing, so I just wondered about that.
I know in the past with like electronic service dealers that, especially with cellular phones, they come and go quite often. So there may have been some kind of like the year before was Radio Shack went under, or went bankrupt. So, there was a lot of cancellations with those. So it could have been something like that. Also, I think with malls closing down and not doing as well, you're probably seeing a lot of closures for kiosks and things like that. So I think that would probably reflect a lower number. I mean, you can also see with the service contractors, they kind of also had a decrease. So they kind of go hand in hand, and usually that's with cellular phones.
Okay, well, just good to keep a watch. And then the second question is on the sanitizers. Can you help us understand the scope of what would fall in there? Because that's also a low number, and now with the COVID, you would, expect the numbers to be growing.
Well,
For example, does it include quats, et cetera?
Cots and stuff. So usually a sanitizer is just like if a pharmacy is renting hospital beds and things like that, they have to have a sanitizer's license. So it's not a huge license out there.
Yeah, it's also, I think the bulk of those licensees are used mattress sanitizers,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're where they're getting the used mattresses, I don't know, but
My experience, it
typical.
was with like pharmacies,
Oh, it's
like
from
if they were renting out hospital beds and, and bringing them back. So they would have to have a sanitizer license.
Okay.
That was the bulk of them.
Does that answer your question, Antoinette?
Yeah, helps me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there was an additional handout that was given that had the household movers quarterly report revenues. I'm going to go over there.
Thank you, Alva. Next, we will have Kelly Williams. She's the the compliance unit manager. And she'll present the statistics for consumer complaints and some enforcement statistics as well. Also joining her is Alda Aguirre, who is the supervising special investigator for her Southern California field team.
And I'm passing out a handout that I think Pascal had asked for, not in our book, but I will pull it out.
Okay, thanks.
Do the people, other people's office, do we want to do a picture of it?
Be right back. I forgot my notes.
Oliver, can't hear anything in case I don't know if you're setting up.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, sorry.
We'll be right with you.
Sounds good.
Hello, I'm Kelly Williams. I'm the compliance manager. And I would like to start by going over the handout that Pascal had asked for about the hefty complaints. Now, these complaints are as of July, and these are the home furnishings and installation complaints as of July 2019 through February 2020. Looking at complaints by category, we have 110 that were actually non-jurisdictional complaints. We had 5 complaints for unlicensed activity, 7 for miscellaneous type issues, 6 for labeling violations. Advertising and invoice delivery issues, we've had about 40 complaints. Incompetence and negligence, we've had 2, and then sanitization, we've had 6. Under this sanitization, just to give you an idea of what that is, it's complaints about maybe the mattress components, bed bugs, mold, or people selling used mattresses as new. Under incompetence and negligence, it's items damaged during delivery. As far as the advertising, invoicing, and delivery, it's false and misleading advertising, not delivering a mattress, improper invoices, not honoring a return policy. And under labeling, it's false information on the label. And then under the non-jurisdictional section, it's issues usually regarding financial issues, dispute, maybe a credit card dispute, issues with a manufacturer's warranty. We get a lot of complaints on product quality, people who buy a mattress and they complain that it's lumpy or They're just not satisfied with the comfort level. And then also requests for refunds. So, under the sanitization portion, I would like to point out that we did have a major case, and actually Alda was our investigator. And in that case, we investigated a high-end mattress store in Southern California that was selling returned mattresses as new. And that investigation resulted in 6 separate citations for 6 retail locations at a total cost of $15,000. So. Under the complaints, I think Pascal had asked for a breakdown of licensed versus unlicensed. So we have that here at the bottom. You'll see most of the complaints that we get are against licensed retailers. We do have a few that come in against unlicensed retailers. So any questions on this handout?
This is very helpful. Thank you, and thank you for Rita and Nicholas for sharing this with me yesterday, as they knew I was not going to be able to attend in person. One question on the label, the false information. Can you categorize what type of false information is on? Were they minor, or what did the Bureau view that as like major false information?
The one I'm thinking of offhand, I mean, we've had a few different labeling complaints. A lot of times it's minor information. We did have one internet seller who was selling products in California that were unlabeled. So that was one of our labeling violations. And actually, after we contacted him, he was actually stopped all sales to California until they became compliant, and they're now compliant with the labeling violations, or with our labels.
Great.
Any other questions on that?
Just on the $15,000 fine, has that been paid?
It was 15, just to be clear, and yes, it was paid.
Right.
Yes, it was.
Great. Okay. Yes, congrats. Thank you.
Yeah. And actually on that one, the respondent admitted liability. So, okay. Going on to the household movers complaints. And this year we've opened 116 complaints. We've closed 98 complaints. And then the next 2 boxes that I'm looking at, we have the complaints received by month and then total complaints by category. Just a clarification on the slide, this data goes from July 1st, 2019 to February 1st, 2020. So please disregard the as of 7/1/19 date. That information is inaccurate. Home movers complaints from July through September, we averaged about 13 per month, and then spiked in October, where we had 37. We assume that this was for 2 reasons. One, most of the moves do take place during the summer months, and consumers who had complaints about their mover and were unable to resolve them directly with the mover probably reported those complaints to us in October after they were unable to find resolution. The other issue for the spike in October is that we did receive 2 complaints from licensed movers where they submitted spreadsheets of unlicensed movers, and we took those in as complaints as well, and they're being investigated by our field staff. So total complaints by category from July 2019 through February 2020, we received a total of 47 unlicensed tips, and we had 10 hold hostage complaints. All of these were referred to our field staff for investigation. In the compliance unit, we received 41 complaints for issues such as loss or damage. We had 8 complaints for overcharges, and a handful of complaints for damaged items, delivery issues, and refunds. Any questions on the household movers? Moving on to the bare hefty complaints. For electronic and appliance repair, we have opened 325 complaints, and we've closed 205 complaints this year. For home furnishings and thermal insulation, we've opened 186 complaints, and we've closed 128 complaints. For both Bear and Hefty, we're on track to meet or exceed the complaint statistics from last year. Questions on this page? Okay. And now I'm on to the Bear and Hefty enforcement statistics. For our telephone disconnects, so far this year we have 5. However, for the fiscal year, we're most likely going to have about 25 by the end of this year. Internal case investigations. From July through February, we have opened 547 Bear investigations and 275 Hefty investigations for a total of 822 investigations. During the same time period, we closed 434 Bear investigations and 205 Hefty investigations for a total of 639 investigation closures. Citations issued during this fiscal year, the Bureau issued 46 Bear citations and 16 Hefty citations for a total of 62 citations. The Bureau shifted its focus on citations to be more in line with our mission of consumer protection by issuing citations for the more serious violations of Bureau laws and regulations. In the past, the higher citation numbers were based on $0 citations being issued to licensees with a delinquent license or to individuals operating without a license. The Bureau is streamlining operations to address delinquencies and unlicensed activities by working with the business to gain compliance without issuing a citation. And in the event that compliance is not obtained, then a citation is issued. Questions on the enforcement statistics?
Quick.
That's amazing. Antoinette.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify for me, 2019 to 2020 is only 7 months.
That is correct.
Okay, so everything above, so when it looks like we're half the amount, it's only for half a year. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I look down at the internal cases down below, you've done in a half a year almost as much, if not more, than you did in the previous year.
Yes.
Okay.
That is it, and my coworker Alda will be presenting next.
Good morning. I'm Alda Aguirre, Supervising Special Investigator for the Southern California Field Staff. Okay, hope that's better. So I'm going to review the household mover investigation stats. And for household mover cases under investigation, we had 18 hold hostage cases. Of the hold hostage cases opened, all but 2 are unlicensed movers. We had 63 cases of unlicensed activity and 2 cases that were other, which means they were cases that were directed requests from the Bureau, from headquarters. They had 2 requests for the field. That gave us a total of 69. Of the hold hostage situations, we resolved 11. We had 7 pending and 4 cases that were forwarded to other agencies. And cases that have been forwarded to other agencies may be in pending or resolved status. And that gives us a total of 18. We issued a total of 36 cease and desist letters. Failure of movers to cease and desist will result in administrative citations. And citations issued from November 2019 to February 2020 were 6. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Alda, I do. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate the breakout on the first item of the hold hostage, licensed versus unlicensed. That's a critical element. I appreciate you guys doing that. When we get down to the resolved, we have 11 resolved during this short period of time. What is the total resolution number since you guys started enforcing for hold hostage situation? I think that's an important number. I don't expect you to know that off the top of your head, but that's an important number for promotional purposes. You guys are doing a fantastic job of that, well beyond any other agency. When you say you've forwarded to other agencies, that concerns me. I'm assuming you forwarded to the FMCSA, and I would be concerned about the outcome for the public on those cases that you've forwarded to other agencies.
No, I'm sorry. So when we forward them to other agencies, those other agencies are the district attorney's offices.
Okay.
For the area where these incidents have happened.
Very good. Appreciate that. That's also valuable. And the citations issued were 6. Do you have a dollar amount for what those 6 citations are?
I do not. I'd say if I had to give you a ballpark figure, I'm thinking we're above 8,000.
So most are about $1,000. Most citations are about $1,000.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the efforts.
you're welcome.
This is Antoinette, and as you spoke just now, the deterrent aspect of enforcement is very important, and therefore it would be good to include this data that's on this page in the next newsletter, or get the word out, because it might deter others from further activity.
Thank you. And just for your information, we have other activities we've been conducting, which include sweeps, and we'll go over those numbers after a couple more presentations.
Great. Thank you both. Next, we'll move to item number 4, electronic and appliance repair update. And that will be given by Jacqueline Castro, the new licensing manager.
Thank you. Good morning. SB 1483 redefined the term service contract to apply more generally to all consumer goods used for personal, family, or household purposes. This change was effective January 1st, 2020. The Bureau anticipated an increase in workload associated with the scope expansion in preparation of the additional service contract filings. A position was created to assist with the service contract workload. Currently, because it just took into effect January 2020, it's too early to see if there's an impact from this change in definition, but we'll definitely keep you posted should there be one in the future. Does anybody have questions? Okay.
Thank you. Jacqueline will stay up for item 5A, which is Division of Household Movers update, and she'll be doing the update on exams.
So between the Bureau and our Southern California vendor, PSI, we have administered a total of 107 exams thus far for the fiscal year 2019-2020. With the revision of the household mover exam last year, the passing rate has significantly gone up from 64% to an 89%. The Bureau and the Office of Professional Examination Services has been working together since January to transition from pencil and paper testing to computer-based testing. Our target date for this transition is anticipated to take effect on May 1st. In addition, the computer-based testing results will be given immediately to the examinee upon completion of the exam with no delay, and licensing will also have immediate access to retrieve these results and log them into our system. So that's kind of exciting news to share, because a lot of the movers obviously want to know, did I pass my exam? So now they're going to have those results as soon as they complete the exam at these different centers. Any questions?
No question, just a thank you. I mean, that's been a long time coming, and really appreciate what you guys have done to make the test more passable, because I think it's most critical that people have some basic knowledge and get into the system and start working, following the rules for consumer protections, et cetera. And what you've done is terrific, so thank you for that, and thank you for expediting letting people know how they did on the test. That seemed like something that should have been done years ago, and really grateful for it. Thank you.
Yeah. We also are excited to announce that we'll be hosting a household movers application workshop in Irvine on March 26th at the Bureau of Automotive Repair. And we look forward to helping those interested in becoming a household mover while going over the application process, answering questions to help them get licensed. We have the agenda, location, and call-in information posted on our website, and it is being promoted on our social media and by the Bureau's investigators. So we encourage anyone that is interested in becoming licensed to please reach out and attend our workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
On that, I have a question about the test that's now computerized. Will there be any availability to the public access to enable them to practice tests that, like past tests? That might be helpful.
We don't offer this exam. We don't offer a practice test exam. That's not something we offer. And this test is actually not in effect right now. We're anticipating an effect date of May 1st of this year. I know that question has been asked before, but we've revised this exam and made it very comprehensive for those taking the exam. We provide pages to the tariff references for items of where they should be looking to obtain that answer. Really, this exam is more of an education for them, to educate them on how to use the tariff. So we have made that exam a lot more, like I said, comprehensive to those taking the exam versus what PUC had. So this is why our passing rate has gone significantly up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move to item B, which is unlicensed activity sweeps. This is for household movers. And Alda will give that update.
Thank you, Nicholas. So, since the start of 2020, the field has started sweep operations. And what a sweep operation is an operation designed to make contact with several businesses in a designated area. And we focused on unlicensed businesses. Our first sweep was a one-day sweep. It was on January 21st, 2020. There were 4 contacts made and 3 citations issued. Then on January 23rd, we made 4 contacts in San Diego County. We issued 1 citation. Then we coordinated another sweep in the Santa Barbara area. It was a 2-day sweep, March 2nd and March 3rd. We made contacts with 12 unlicensed businesses. We issued 8 cease letters, and we made 10 additional investigative visits. During that sweep, we met with the Santa Barbara District Attorney's Office and introduced ourselves. After our visit, they issued a press release informing the public of who should be licensed and who should not be licensed. They also informed the public that they intend to prosecute those that are not obeying the law. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah. It seems that the philosophy of enforcement switched between the LA and LA San Diego and the Santa Barbara, where on those ones you had contacts and citations. On when you went to Santa Barbara, you switched the model for contacts and then cease and desist letters. Is there a reason behind that modification?
Yes, so the first sweeps that we conducted in January were businesses that we had been in contact with in the past. We had issued cease letters in the past. They did not respond to our letters, to our communication, and did not cooperate in applying for a license. So then we scheduled a sweep to conduct a visit, and that was more focused on those types of businesses. In Santa Barbara, we had not made contact with the list of businesses in that area, so that was our initial contact. Instead of sending them a letter via mail, we knocked on their doors and made contact and educated them and informed them that they needed to comply with the law. So that was the shift, but it's just going to depend on the areas and the focus needed in those areas. These 3 sweeps were in Southern California, but they have included staff from Northern California also, so investigators from Northern and Southern California are working together so that we are communicating and conducting the best sweeps throughout the state. You're welcome. Any more questions?
Just to add to that a little bit as well, our staff has done an amazing job, our investigators, Alda, in following up on the complaints that we're getting from, and the Santa Barbara sweep was primarily based on complaints from licensed movers. And just the sheer amount of complaints that we received on unlicensed activity for such a small city is what necessitated a sweep operation. So we will continue to do sweeps. We have 2 additional sweeps planned for this month and next month, I guess.
Next several months.
Next few months. So we'll continue to, and we'll increase our sweep operations, and eventually, hopefully during the high point of the season, which is the summer, we'll be doing stings as well. So it's exciting. We've wanted to sort of get into this, do more enforcement on the household mover side since we took it over, really, right? And we are able to do that now, and it's been successful. We've had made a lot of contacts. The field and Alda, they're making a lot of contacts with the DA's offices throughout the state as well, and getting a great response from them. They're willing to help us and prosecute some of these folks. So it's exciting.
And just one more thing, we are also going to be conducting sweeps for electronic and appliance repair businesses that are unlicensed, and BUFD cases also. Thank you.
Thank you, Alda. Item C, and this is the tariff fee study update for 2020. Just wanted to give a quick update, essentially just saying that we're still working on the fee study. The study period concludes on June 1st of this year. After that time, we will we'll begin doing all of the analysis from that study period, and then, writing the report and making that public, probably through whether it's a public meeting on its own or here at the advisory council. So that's all for that one. Any questions on that? Okay. The last item under household mover updates is the household mover regulations licensing rulemaking proposal workshop, which Fauna Lamar, who is one of the policy managers, will give that update for us.
Hi, good morning, council members and those on the phone. We will be holding a regulation workshop to discuss potential regulations regarding licensing requirements of the Household Mover Act on March 25th in Irvine, California. This is in conjunction with the application workshop that Jacqueline discussed a few minutes ago. It's the Bureau's first regulatory workshop in Southern California, so we're excited to work with industry down there. The agenda, location, and call-in information is posted on our website, was distributed to our listservs, and is being promoted on social media. But anyone who has questions can call the Bureau. We would appreciate full attendance. And the meeting is public, so all interested are welcome to attend, but there's a teleconference option which is listed on the agenda, and the agenda is in your meeting materials. Any questions from anybody on that?
On item 4 of the agenda, the word challenges, how do I interpret that?
So when investigators are going out and talking with those who are unlicensed, certain business models say that they are not licensed because of whatever challenge they claim applies to their business model. So we would like to fix those in regulations. Some of those are not actually hurdles. Some of them are perceived. So we would like to make that known that those are things that we can work with them on to get them permitted, and some things we would just like to discuss to see if there's ways to solve them through regulation.
Yeah, I mean, I foresee some, as I look at what some of these industries would call challenges, I would say that the regulated community faces exactly the same challenges, but have had to adapt and had to deal with it. And so I'm just wanting to make sure that this isn't some way, I know that you guys want to continue down with the regulation of these groups. I'm just not looking for excuses in this area.
No, this is a way to get them licensed.
Okay.
Or at least that's what we would be looking for in the regulation workshop and while we're developing the regulations.
Thank you. And on the permit fees item number 5, is that something that you'll be coming to that meeting with some kind of plan, or is it just to start a dialogue on that?
Start a dialogue.
Okay, good.
Like Nicholas or Chief Oliver said, we are still working on the study.
Yeah.
So we most likely in 2 weeks will not have an update from what he just said. So this is to get input from industry.
Okay.
To make sure that industry knows that they're being heard by the Bureau and to get your feedback.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so if that's all on the workshop, I'll move on to agenda item 6, the home furnishings and thermal insulation update. So on agenda item 6A, the survey, AB 2998 requires the International Sleep Products Association to conduct a survey of mattress producers, including Bureau licensees, of fibers and materials used in mattress production used to meet flammability standards. The report is also required to include a list of flame retardant chemicals used, the method for incorporating those chemicals in each component, and other specified information. The first report was due January 31st, 2020. We received it on January 31st. It's also due every 3 years hereafter. We posted it to the Bureau's website a couple weeks after. We just wanted to read it, read something before we posted it on the Bureau's website. It's 75 pages, so it's not included in your materials, but it is on our website, and on the electronic version of the meeting materials, there's a link on the table of contents. Any questions?
Are there any comments about if Bert, you had a chance to look at the survey,
Yeah,
correct?
I looked at it quickly, and kind of what bothered me is that there's no foreign mattress manufacturers. We have no information from them. And ISPA was saying that, they don't know, it's not split down. So how are we going to be able to get that information?
That is up to ISPA.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're the ones responsible for creating the survey, for conducting the survey, and the Bureau is not mandated to break that out. We gave a list of over 9,000 licensees. That would be a huge strain on Bureau resources to break that out for them when that's not a mandate of us.
It's not a mandate, but is there a way you could just pull out the foreign manufacturers of mattresses? Like, I know you can pull out the California manufacturers.
Well, we did give them, in our list of licensees we gave them their addresses. So that included their mailing addresses, so they should have been able to do that. Anyone on the phone?
This is Pascal. I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Diana.
Hello, everybody. I'm talking about the law label requirements and the frequently asked questions document. This is available on our website. As requested by industry, this document consolidates the 3 different versions that were available previously on the website that included the plumage label examples, law label examples, and the FAQ. This document is a more comprehensive document that is intended to assist industry with complying with the law label requirements. The document was first posted in December 2019. This version contained an error in the type number 2 law label. It was corrected in January, and that version has been posted to our website and distributed to our interested parties list. So hopefully that one is being used.
Again, I'd just like to thank you from industry for doing that for us. And hopefully that'll help us comply on some of the minor law label confusions.
Thank you, Bert.
Yeah, this is Pascal. It was very timely. Thank you for setting that because I was able to actually pass it out at the Vegas market in late January of this year to the folks that I met with. So thank you for the timeliness of that FAQ.
Nice. Thank you, Pascal.
All right, so now we'll move to item number 7, which Diana and Fauna both, I believe, will be participating in. And that will go through item 8 as well, the legislative update. So they'll be up here for a few minutes. Thank you.
On this section 100, there are 4 sections within the rules and regulations booklet that appear to be duplicative and are causing confusion within industry. These are sections that became inoperative as of December 2014 with the repeal of Technical Bulletin 117. The Bureau will be submitting a Section 100 rulemaking package to have these sections removed. The Section 100 is a simplified rulemaking process for making changes to the regulations. These are non-substantive changes only and changes without regulatory effect. This process allows these changes to be made without going through the 45-day process or 45-day comment period and without holding a public hearing. So the sections that these pertain to is Section 1126, which is the law label section, 1373.2, 1374, and 1374.3. Any questions on that?
Hi, this is Yafana again for those on the phone. I'm moving on to agenda item 7B and C. I'll talk about them together, and then there's a little bit of distinction between them that I'll cover at the end. So first, both of these regulations proposals are required to meet the mandates of AB 2138. Beginning July 1st, 2020, AB 2138 restricts the discretion of programs within the DCA in using prior criminal history as grounds for licensing determinations by establishing prohibitions relating to denial, suspension, and license revocation. 2138 also requires programs to consider evidence of rehabilitation when making those licensing determinations. Because those change our requirements for the substantial relationship criteria and the rehabilitation criteria, we are required to submit regulations, and that's DCA-wide. Every single program had to submit. The proposed language is in your packets. The notice of proposed action and the initial statement of reasons are online. Those are longer documents, so I didn't want to burden you with a whole lot of information, but I want to quickly cover what the amendments do. So the amendments to both Hufty and Bear, they reorganize the language. That's subsections A and C of both proposed language. They incorporate the required determination criteria. That's subsection B of both sets of proposed language. They add crimes involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or theft as those which are substantially related. That's a consumer protection issue. We don't want anyone to have a license who has stolen from consumers. And we also are required to add the process to appeal a Bureau decision based on the stated criteria. To the rehabilitation criteria, amendments add a process for considering the evidence of rehabilitation for applicants who completed parole or probation without incident. That's subsection A, and subsection B adds a stricter set of criteria for considering evidence of rehabilitation for applicants who did not pass parole or probation without incident. So there are year-specific amendments. We propose that because electronic and appliance repair service dealers have to meet industry and trade standards, we also included incompetence, negligence, or departure from trade standards as a reason for denying a license. We also included violent crimes as substantially related to the performance and duties of a service dealer. Service dealers enter into people's homes. They also have access to, if they fix electronics, they may have access to passwords, pictures, financial information. So those licensees we would want to look at more closely. Both proposals were approved by the Office of Administrative Law to post for the 45-day public comment period beginning February 21st. That's why they're on our website. They're there until April 6th. The public has until April 6th midnight to get comments to us, to which we have to respond. And then we'll do our final filing to adopt these regulations. Any questions? Sorry, that was a lot. No questions on the phone? Okay, I'll move on to the household mover regulations, the initial rulemaking proposal. We last reported that the proposal was approved by our attorney in August and would be moving to DCA exec for review next. Since then, the DCA established a regulations unit in the legal division who pulled it back for review. They recently sent us comments and questions, and we responded, so now we are awaiting an update from DCA Legal. So the update is the same as at the last advisory council. We anticipate it going to executive review next. Any questions? Okay, I'll move on to agenda item 8. We're almost done. There aren't any Bureau-specific bills yet. The introduction deadline was February 21st. There are many, many spot bills out there. that can be amended to include language affecting the Bureau. Also, the policy committees for the Senate and Assembly are going through sunset review of DCA programs next week and the week after, so we don't anticipate anything for a few weeks at least. The first bill on the agenda is AB 1616. This follows up with AB 2138. It is meant to reduce barriers to employment for those who have had criminal convictions that have been expunged. If a license has been revoked due to a criminal conviction and the conviction was expunged, this bill would require the Bureau to post the expungement on its website for those who reapply, or remove the revocation from the website for those who do not reapply. This bill is currently in the Senate Committee on Rules, awaiting referral to a policy committee. Any questions on that bill? Okay, 8B, AB 1925 by Assemblymember Obernolte. I'll start off with, this is one of 34 bills that I found that would make amendments to AB 5 from last year. There are probably more, but I found 34. I know that household movers are very interested in AB 5, which is why I bring it up here, but this bill does not affect the Bureau. So I just wanted to make that clear first.
If I could interject one thing. So I think really the only bill on that that's going to matter at all is AB 1850 Gonzalez, that she is at this point dictating what modifications will move forward. And so if there's any way for us to track that one bill,
Sure.
AB 1850 Gonzalez, that would be the bill at this point, I think.
Of course. So the reason I picked AB 1925 to bring this up is it would allow small businesses an exemption. And it defines small businesses as independently owned and operated, not dominant in its field, has fewer than 100 employees, and has less than $15 million in gross revenue in the past 3 years. So I thought that might affect some of your smaller members, so I wanted to report that bill. I will definitely keep an eye on AB 1850 and report on that at the next advisory council. The next bill is AB 2185 by Assemblymember Patterson. This bill would require the Bureau to issue a license to an applicant if the applicant holds an out-of-state license in good standing for the past 3 of 5 years in another state. This would require the applicant to pass any required California-specific exam, which we require for household movers. However, it requires the person to satisfy license requirements in another state, and it would prohibit us from denying a license to that person. So that could be an issue, especially with household movers. There are many requirements that household movers must meet, and those might not necessarily be the same in every state. So this bill would prohibit us from denying an application if they don't meet our requirements. So while it doesn't amend our Practice Act, it could affect us. So I'll be in contact with the Department Legislative Office to share our concerns. Any questions?
Yeah, so I have questions on that. So it allows them to, if they're permitted in, say, Tennessee, and they apply for a permit in California, to get a California permit regardless of whether they meet the standards established in California. But for engagement in California, the rules of the road would be exactly the same, correct? They would have to. Whereas you can drive in every state with a license from Tennessee. If you're going 85 miles an hour on the 5 freeway, you still get a citation. Just because in Tennessee, they allow you to drive on the superhighway at 85 doesn't mean you can do that there. So the same body of regulations would apply. Just, it only applies to whether they can have an active permit or not, correct?
Well, how it would change things is if, for example, Tennessee doesn't have the same insurance requirements we do. They could still get a permit in California, and we would be prohibited from denying that.
From denying the permit, but the activity that they do might still require the consumer protections that the regulations have. So they might be able to have the permit, but if the regulations specifically say, this isn't a permitting process, this is a public engagement process, and it says for that, they need to have $20,000 of this or workers' comp, that they would still have to have that in order to conduct business. They could have the license, but they couldn't conduct the business unless they met the standards of the tariff.
Right, they would still need to follow the tariff. That's your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Statement,
yes.
statement question.
Yes, they would, yes. They would still have to operate as if they are a regular licensee in California. However, their permit requirements might be different, and it would be based on their home state.
That's a huge quagmire that I think that we should take a position that I would strongly recommend. I mean, I would take a position opposed to that, specifically for regulated industries. I guess that's the whole point, right? Those are the only people that get licenses. But, you know, California, I think, in all areas, sees themselves as, you know, setting the standard, and to have this seems to be run counter to that general philosophy of regulation.
Yeah, the Bureau we don't take positions on legislation, the department does, but that's why I'll be in contact with the DCA Legislative Office to voice those concerns. And, yeah. Okay, the next bill is SB 878 by Senator Jones. This bill would require the Bureau to prominently display current and average license processing times on its website. I bring this up because we were recently asked this at an industry event for household movers, and that's the only reason why I'm presenting this bill, is this bill would require us to actually report that at all times on our website, average and current license processing times, and that would be for all our industries and all license types. Any questions? Last bill, we're almost done. The federal bill, Senate Bill 3551, I thought there might be an update since the last meeting. There is not. It's still awaiting a floor vote, but it has strong bipartisan support. So whenever a floor vote is scheduled, we hope that it passes. It would make the TB 117 2013 the national standard for flammability standard for upholstered furniture. Is that it? No questions?
All right, thank you very much. Are there any comments or public comments on items that were not covered, either from folks on the phone or here?
Yeah, this is Don Lucas again. Nicholas, I'm just curious, have you announced the members of this committee? Are we officially members?
Great question. So that's still the applications and the potential candidates are still awaiting appointment and review by the executive office. So I would imagine we would hear fairly soon on that, and then we'll post it on the website, as well as let all of the new appointees, we'll let you all know as soon as we know.
Great. I also have a comment and a question regarding the Bureau. I've been very impressed by the changes you've made in the last couple of years, and even what the Bureau has done before that. And I really appreciate your work and the staff's work. You've been very responsive to a lot of the requests we've made, even if they're out of the blue, and so I want to thank you for that. But I'd also like to know what would be the best way for someone like me to go up the chain, because I want to make sure that people above you, either in DCA or other state officials, know what kind of job you're doing. So what would you suggest we do?
Well, thank you for that. I have been very lucky with a great management team and great staff that are dedicated to serving the consumers of California. Customer services are our number one, responsibility and what the expectation is as well. So as far as, my mom, yeah. I report to the Director of Consumer Affairs and to the Governor and to the agency secretary. So those are folks that are on our website. Is that good? Good enough for the?
I just hope DCA management appreciates the job you folks are doing.
They do. I have bi-weekly-ish updates with our new director, and she's definitely appreciative of the Bureau and the lack of issues that come up at the Bureau. There are a lot of boards and bureaus and industries that are regulated under Department of Consumer Affairs that that have a lot of press, and so she appreciates that we do not. But thank you, Dawn. I appreciate it. Any other comments, questions?
I can just add, thank you all for being here today without actually formally knowing that you were appointed to the council. We appreciate your time.
I like to crash the party, so thank you.
One item that we did not address yet was the next advisory council date. Do you have proposed dates? So we would typically go 4/3? July, right? Let me pull up my calendar. So July 9th, or let's see, hold on. I might not be able to do. Let's go the 9th or the 16th. Let's see.
16th works for me, the 9th does not.
The 9th is actually that might be a tough one for me as well.
The 16th works for me. This is Pascal.
Will you be able to call? Okay. All right, the 16th it is. So July 16th of this year will be our next advisory council meeting. If there are no other items, then we will adjourn. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to the staff and management who presented and did all the work to present this data, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Antoinette.
Bye, Antoinette.
Thank you. Stay safe out there.